Have you ever felt a man's presence without hearing a single word from him? You don't know what he's thinking. You don't know what he wants. But you know one thing for sure. He's not ordinary. He doesn't perform. He doesn't explain. And yet, everyone senses he's in control. It's not confidence. It's not dominance. It's something far more dangerous. It's inner stillness. The kind only a few ever master. The kind built by fire, by silence, by a war no one else sees. And that's what makes him powerful. Not because he says he is, but because he doesn't need to. This is the Stoic man. Not loud at all, but louder than anyone else in the room. Silence is the armor of the disciplined. There's something unsettling about a man who doesn't speak much. You feel his presence, but not through volume, through weight. He doesn't explain. He doesn't argue. He just is. And that being, that presence, is often louder than any speech, stronger than any assertion, and sharper than any insult hurled in noise. This is not accidental. It's cultivated. In a world addicted to noise, opinions, notifications, outrage, silence has become a forgotten weapon. But the Stoics, over 2,000 years ago, already understood its power. To them, silence wasn't emptiness. It was precision. It was discipline. It was self-mastery on full display. When Marcus Aurelius said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one," he was making it very clear. The disciplined don't talk about discipline. They live it. They wear their silence like armor. Because when you've trained yourself not to react, not to be pulled in 1,000 directions by emotion, ego, and drama, you become immovable. And immovable people are terrifying. Let's break down why this matters more than ever today. Noise is the language of the undisciplined. The modern world tells us the loudest voice wins. The biggest personality wins. The person who reacts quickest, posts fastest, screams loudest. That's the one who gets ahead. But here's the truth the masses can't stomach. The loudest person in the room is often the most insecure. Look at any man who can't stop talking. He's performing. He's trying to be seen. He's hungry for attention because he doesn't trust his own presence to speak for itself. But the disciplined man doesn't need that. He doesn't care about being the center of attention because his center is internal. He doesn't care about being right in an argument because he knows the truth doesn't need defense. And he never reacts out of emotion because emotion doesn't own him. You see, silence isn't about muting your voice. It's about sharpening your mind. It's about building so much control over yourself that people feel it when you walk into a room. Even if you don't say a single word. Why Stoics guard their words like treasure? Epictetus, once a slave turned philosopher, said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." That wasn't just a witty line. It was a discipline. Stoics believed speech should be rare, deliberate, and meaningful. Every word should serve a purpose. Not to impress, not to overpower, but to communicate only what is necessary. In today's culture, people say everything that crosses their mind. They vent, they rant, they expose their weaknesses in real time, all for the illusion of connection. The disciplined man does the opposite. He lets others talk. He observes. He listens deeply. Because while everyone else is revealing their thoughts, emotions, and insecurities, he's gathering information, understanding patterns, and keeping his power contained. And the man who contains his power is always more dangerous than the one who flaunts it. Silence builds mystery, and mystery builds influence. People are drawn to mystery. It's biological. When we can't predict someone, we instinctively pay more attention. We're wired to decode, to interpret, to obsess over what we don't know, far more than what we do. This is why silent men are so magnetic. It's not just that they're quiet. It's that you don't know what they're thinking. You don't know what they'll do. You can't read them, and that makes them infinitely more intriguing and intimidating. In contrast, someone who constantly talks gives away their entire psychological profile. You know what they want, what they hate, what makes them tick. That makes them predictable, and predictability is weakness. The disciplined man understands this. He knows that restraint creates value. He knows that mystery is a form of power. And so, he chooses silence not as a limitation, but as a tool. Emotional control lives in the pause. Most people speak to release emotion. Anger, frustration, jealousy, fear. These things have a way of bubbling up and spilling out through words. But not the Stoic. He doesn't run from emotion. He observes it. He feels it. But he doesn't serve it. He pauses. That pause is everything. That pause is what separates the reactive man from the disciplined man. The reactive man blows up, lashes out, spirals. The disciplined man feels the same fire, but he lets it burn inside without losing his grip. He doesn't suppress emotion. He contains it. Like a sealed furnace, the heat inside him fuels his focus, not his destruction. And in a society built on instant reaction, the ability to pause, to not respond, to not take the bait, that's real strength. Silence, then, becomes a kind of emotional armor. It allows space between stimulus and response. It gives the disciplined man the high ground in any battle, because he's never fighting on emotions' terms. The quiet man is the last to fall. In times of crisis, the loudest often panic first, but the silent man, he remains composed. Because he's trained for this. Because he knows storms don't last. Because his calm is not an accident. It's armor. Think about the generals, the warriors, the leaders you admire. The ones whose faces don't flinch under pressure. The ones who don't speak until it's necessary. That silence? It comes from deep preparation, from discipline, from thousands of quiet battles fought alone. You can't fake that kind of presence. And when everyone else is drowning in panic, the quiet man becomes the anchor. Not because he's emotionless, but because he's mastered those emotions. That's the Stoic advantage. That's the edge of silence. Final thought for this section. If you want to stand out in today's world, don't shout louder. Stand quieter. If you want to lead, don't impress people with your words. Let your restraints speak louder than their ego. And if you want to build the kind of presence that commands respect the moment you enter a room, stop trying to be noticed. Start training in silence. Because silence is not the absence of noise. It's the presence of control. And in a chaotic world, control is the most powerful signal a man can send. Controlled stillness commands attention. Have you ever noticed that the most powerful people in the room often do the least? They don't rush to speak. They don't fidget. They don't overexpress. They just sit there, calm, focused, and still. And somehow, that stillness draws every eye toward them. Why? Because true stillness, controlled stillness, is not about doing nothing. It's about doing only what matters. In a world obsessed with movement, where everyone is twitching, scrolling, talking, and reacting 24/7, stillness becomes a rebellion, a posture of defiance, a statement that says, I am not at the mercy of this chaos. This kind of control doesn't just impress people. It unnerves them. And that's exactly why it commands attention. Stillness is the language of presence. People can feel it. When someone is deeply grounded in themselves, you could walk into a meeting room full of people tapping on laptops, checking phones, chatting nervously. Then one person walks in, doesn't say a word, sits down, and somehow, everyone becomes aware of him. What changed? It's not the voice. It's not the outfit. It's not even charisma. It's stillness. Intentional, deliberate, commanding stillness. You see, the body reflects the mind. And most people are scattered, mentally and emotionally, so their bodies show it. Constant movement, constant speech, constant adjustment. All of it screams insecurity and lack of control. But the Stoic, the disciplined man, he has trained his body to reflect his inner world. Stable, measured, unmoved. Stillness becomes a quiet demonstration of strength. Not forced, not theatrical, just natural. Why people fear what they can't read. When a man is calm, unreadable, and still, others can't figure him out. That unknown makes people pay attention. Humans are pattern-seeking creatures. We try to interpret facial expressions, voice tone, posture, anything that gives away intention. But when a man gives nothing, when he doesn't react emotionally, doesn't fidget, doesn't rush to fill the silence, he becomes a puzzle, and people instinctively start watching closer. This is why the most respected leaders in history, philosophers, warriors, emperors, weren't the loud ones. They were composed. They didn't rush decisions. They didn't flinch under pressure. They allowed stillness to speak for them. Julius Caesar was known for his deliberate movements and icy calm under pressure. Marcus Aurelius was famous for his quiet contemplation even in the face of betrayal and war. And today, you'll still see this trait in elite operators, CEOs, martial artists, men who have trained themselves to slow down the moment things speed up. That's the power of stillness. It doesn't demand attention. It draws it. The mind that doesn't move wins. Let's go deeper. Controlled stillness is not just physical. It's mental. It means having the ability to sit with discomfort, chaos, temptation, and not move. That's what Stoicism is about. When Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself," he was pointing at the ultimate form of power. Not domination of others, but total control over your own responses. So, when someone insults you and you don't react, stillness. When an opportunity to boast arises and you stay quiet, stillness. When everyone around you is losing their minds and you remain calm, calculating, composed, stillness. And here's the truth no one talks about. Most people can't handle stillness. It terrifies them, because in stillness, you're forced to face yourself. No distractions, no ego performances, just raw internal discipline. That's why it's rare. That's why it's powerful. The strategic power of non-reaction. Imagine this. You're in a heated negotiation. The other side throws a jab, emotional, manipulative, maybe even insulting. What does the average person do? They react. They defend. They talk too much. But the Stoic? He says nothing. He lets the silence do the work. He stays still. Not because he's passive, but because he's patient. He knows that emotional reaction gives away power, and silence holds it. That moment of non-reaction, that still posture, it communicates something stronger than words. You can't move me. I'm not here to impress you. I'm here to win. And that changes everything. Because stillness doesn't just reflect strength. It creates it. It slows time. It shifts dynamics. It makes others uncomfortable, uncertain, unbalanced. Suddenly, you are in control. You become the frame others react to. Here's a concept most people miss. In any interaction, someone sets the emotional tone. That person becomes the frame, and the frame controls the scene. If you're fidgeting, apologizing, reacting, you've surrendered the frame. But if you're calm, still, measured, you become the emotional anchor. Others begin to match your rhythm. They speak more slowly. They second-guess. They adapt to you. This is not arrogance. It's influence. And it's earned through training. Because stillness under pressure doesn't come naturally. It's built, rep after rep, deliberately, quietly. Stillness isn't an action. It's mastery in motion. Now let's clarify something. Stillness doesn't mean passivity. It doesn't mean laziness. It doesn't mean doing nothing. It means doing only what is essential when it is time. The Stoic doesn't flinch, but he acts decisively, purposefully, when the moment requires it. Not a second before, not a second late. Think of a lion. He spends hours lying in the sun, perfectly still, watching, listening, storing energy. You might even think he's lazy, but when it's time to move, he explodes with focused force. No wasted motion, no hesitation. That's what controlled stillness is. Preparation, precision, presence. Final thought for this section. The world is loud. People talk too much, move too fast, chase too many things. And in all that noise, the man who is still, who is measured, grounded, deliberate, becomes unignorable. He doesn't shout. He doesn't beg for attention. He becomes the gravity in the room. That's not a gift. That's not a talent. That's discipline. So ask yourself, not how loud you can be, but how still you can remain when the pressure rises. Because in a world ruled by reaction, stillness becomes dominance. And the man who controls himself eventually controls everything.